I would like to tell you a little bit about our format tonight. We've invited our esteemed panel here, and I'll introduce them in a moment. We're going to do a quick presentation on what it is that they're doing to prepare their students for today's workforce. Then I have some other members of the business community that are out in the audience who are each going to prompt a discussion around their areas of business, so we can have some interaction on how are you preparing students specifically for tech, for outdoor, for general workforce development in the trades, et cetera. And then we're going to open it up to Q&A from the audience. All right? So our panel, Dr. Becky Johnson, she is the VP of OSU Cascades, and Jay Mathison is the Deputy Superintendent for Bend-La Pine School District. And if you haven't met her, Dr. Laurie Chesley has been here, since July? 5 months. Way seasoned. She is the president of Central Oregon Community College, COCC. We're very, very grateful for your time, for being here tonight, and they're each going to share with us what's up at their institution or organization, as it were. And so, Becky, would you like to lead it off?
Sure, be happy to. Thank you, Katie, for the invitation to be here tonight, and thank you, everybody, for being here. We greatly value our membership in the chamber, and it's a way for us to stay connected to all of the businesses in Bend. Tonight's topic is preparing local students for local employment and making them future ready. So the first thing I want to talk about is what do we mean by local? I think I can advance those. Jay's going to talk about people who are truly local, and at OSU Cascades, we do attract some students from outside of our local area. And this year, this fall, this is the demographics of OSU Cascades. So we're overwhelmingly Oregonian and primarily Central Oregonian, but we do get a fair number of out-of-state and a few international students at OSU Cascades. And I think it's a real asset for our region to bring in some of that diversity of experiences and cultures from other places other than Central Oregon and other than Oregon. And as you heard from Caleb, if you all have jobs for them when they graduate, I think overwhelmingly they'd like to stay here. And so they will represent our future workforce. This is very different than OSU in Corvallis, where there's 30,000 students in a town of 50,000. Here we have 1,000 students in a town of 90,000. So our students actually have a lot of opportunities to stay in this community and work after graduation. So what are we doing to prepare that local workforce for local jobs? First thing we do is try to make sure that we have the degrees, the bachelor's degrees and master's degrees that our economy and our community needs to serve the workforce here. And some of those are obvious. Tourism, we have a hospitality management degree, we have a tourism adventure leadership degree. We have some engineering degrees and computer science. We know how much the tech sector is growing right now. We are just starting a new program in outdoor products because there's nearly 100 outdoor products companies here in Central Oregon. We have the business degree that you already heard about, which of course spans a lot of your different sectors, environmental science and natural resources, because we know that this is a natural resource-based economy as well. We have an education degree that serves our K12 system with teachers, and a counseling degree that serves them with counselors. Biology leads into the health degrees, if a student wants to become a doctor or nurse or some type of health practitioner. So we feel like we've kind of covered the territory with as few degrees as possible, given that we only have 1,300 students right now. So we are limited in the number of degrees that we can offer. But I don't want people to forget about our liberal arts and our humanities as well. And I was talking to somebody earlier about kind of what we usually call soft skills. I'm not sure why, because they're so critical to success. How many of you have a liberal arts degree? Not as many as I would have thought. Liberal arts students learn how to think. They learn how to do lifelong learning. And they are excellent communicators. They make great employees. And a lot of times the technical aspects of your businesses can be taught on-the-job training to someone who has those great skills and knows how to learn. And so I hope you all will think about liberal arts graduates as you advertise for your positions and not make it so narrow that you limit the kinds of students that you are recruiting. We also have a degree in human dimensions and family science, and I want to mention that because a lot of those students go to work in our nonprofit sector. And so whether they're interested in early childhood or gerontology or social services, those students are often working in our nonprofit sector here in Central Oregon. We also really emphasize experiential education at OSU Cascades. That can encompass everything from internships, study abroad, research, leadership. And many of our programs have embedded these kinds of experiences in their curriculum. So the students are getting it when they first arrive, they're getting it again throughout the second and third year, and then many of them have a capstone experience where they're bringing all of their knowledge from their degree program to bear on a problem, oftentimes from one of your businesses that you bring to us, and we attack those at OSU Cascades. Our research program in particular, we have a program called the Lehman Fellows, thank you to Daisy Lehman, who's here tonight, has funded students to get involved with the faculty members on research projects. And then at the end of the year, they present this with posters and sort of defend their research at the end of the year. And it's just a great experience for them, whether they're going to go on to grad school or not, or be involved in research. It gives them a real feel for the discipline that they're studying and what the state of the art is in that discipline. I want to talk particularly, though, about internships. Well, I was just going to mention that computer science is kind of our rock star for being involved in the community. These are all the companies in Central Oregon that computer science students are involved in before they graduate. And it's just impressive how many of our faculty are getting out and interacting with those companies. In terms of internships, we know that it's important, and national research shows us that if a company hires an intern that interned with that company, their retention rate is 71%. If they hire someone who interned at another company, the retention rate is 66%. And if you hire somebody who hasn't interned at all, it's a 46% retention rate. So the experience that students get during that internship is really valuable. A couple of examples that we have from our energy systems engineering degree. We had 7 interns at Earth Cruiser. 4 of them are now employed at Earth Cruiser. And the same thing happens at multiple engineering companies in Central Oregon. And then finally, we just have an excellent career services staff at OSU Cascades, and they help mentor students and help them explore what they want to do. It's really important when a student first arrives on campus. They often don't know what they want to do in terms of a career. They often change majors 2 or 3 times while they're a student. If we can get them thinking about that career exploration their very first term, they're more likely to get on the right path and not waste a lot of credits and take too long to graduate. They host professional development opportunities and job fairs. And then finally, they help students just get jobs and internships. They also work free for alumni who want to come back and get some help in terms of career services. So they're really this one-stop shop to help students with careers. And our staff is particularly good at getting out on social media, which is important for students right now. And I wanted to share with you a great Instagram. Laura is the star of this. So if you could run that.
Happy Week 7, Ben Beeves. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Laura. And with the Business and Administration Opportunities Fair coming up this week, we wanted to touch on business casual versus business professional.
So first, there is Bend Business. We see lots of jeans with collared shirts, sweaters, and even puffies. That isn't what you would want to wear to your interview or the upcoming Opportunities Fair.
Traditional business casual would be best. A professional looking dress, maybe with a sweater or a scarf, or dress slacks with a collared shirt or a blouse and dress shoes.
For business professional, you would want to add a jacket and possibly a tie. You definitely wouldn't want to dress like this for any work situation.
I'm too sexy. for my shirt. Too sexy for my shirt. So sexy it hurts.
We did look good though.
We are happy to be your style gurus if you have any questions about professional dress.
Until next week, love what you do.
So Laura, raise your hand, and she is in charge of our Career Development Center. And if any of you have questions afterward, please see Laura. Thank you.
Can I have the clicker?
Yep.
Jay, I believe you're next. Or Lara, you guys get to choose. Go for it.
Am I lined up next here? Here we go. Well, good evening. Katy asked us to present on what's new at your colleges, what's new in workforce education. And as she noted, I've been here 5 months, so literally everything is new to me. But don't worry, I'm not going to tell you everything I think I know now about COCC. And no worries, I've got some good colleagues here who can step in and help me with the questions if I need it. So for those of you who may not be familiar with COCC, let me give you just a little bit of background. We are the oldest two-year college in Oregon. We were founded in 1949, originally part of the Bend School District, and operated out of what was then Bend High School and is now the Bend-La Pine Administration Building. We have campuses not only in Bend, but in Redmond, Madras, and Prineville, and we provide comprehensive educational services to residents of our 10,000 square mile district. Each quarter, we serve about 5,000 students taking credit courses that either lead to certificates or degrees in workforce program or to transfer to great places like OSU Cascades or any other four-year college or university. Additionally, we serve about 10,000 area residents a year in non-credit programs, including adult basic skills, English language learning classes, industry and career-specific training, small business development, and various kinds of avocational activities. Katy suggested that this might be an interesting fact to share with you about community colleges. And that fact is that our enrollment is correlated with the economy, but not in the way that you might think. As you can see from this chart, when the economy is really good and employment is high, our enrollment tends to be lower. People are happy with where they're at in their careers, not maybe looking to make a change. Our enrollment tends to be lower. As the economy gets bad, and you'll see here in the recent recession years, our enrollment tends to skyrocket because people are back to school, wanting to retrain, find a new career, et cetera. So we have interesting interrelationships with the workforce and our enrollment. So I thought you also might be interested in just the scope of our career and technical education programs. We have nearly 24 different career and technical education program areas. Many of them have multiple options, so that in total, close to 40 different degrees or certificates can be earned at COCC. Some are what we call one-year certificates, shorter term. Others are full two-year programs. Many longer programs are comprised of short-term certificates that allow for students to focus in specialized areas that can be completed in a term or two. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So as I think about the trends that matter at COCC, I think of trends that exist currently and that our college, I'm partial obviously, our college has done some great work with. and those trends that we want to make sure that we continue and take advantage of every opportunity to grow stronger in. And those trends are partnerships, short-term certifications, non-credit workforce training, and stackable credentials. So these are important areas of focus at the college. They're important to me personally as we do everything we can to be better partners in the community for training the workforce of Central Oregon. And so what I'm going to do is chat a little bit about some of the examples that we're doing, some more long-standing, some newer to our portfolio, to give you some examples of the scope of the work that we do. The first program that I want to focus some attention on is construction. And this is a great example of our focus on partnerships and our desire to be responsive to our communities. Maybe some of you saw in Saturday's Bend Bulletin a great article on the front page about this program. My understanding is, obviously I haven't been here that long, but my understanding is that this program in some way had its inception at a What's Brewing event a couple of years back, when some staff from COCC and some local construction company partners started talking about how we might work together to solve the skills gap in construction in our area. And so that partnership has come to fruition thanks to the efforts of over 30 partners from industry in the K12 arena, as well as agency partners, East Cascade Works and WorkSource. Some of the contributions that our partners made, working with our curriculum committee and advisory board to make sure that there's a strong industry connection and industry involvement. Our partners donated $92,000 in funding to make this program happen, $14,000 in scholarships. Our exceptional instructors are experts in the field who come from the current industry. The program has been running from May 2018 through this semester. We've had 3 course iterations. If you want a lot more specific information about this, I saw Rachel Knox here, and she's one of the real COCC engines behind this effort, and I know she'd chat with you. We've trained 32 students. Still, some of the most significant challenges are, as we look to grow this program, getting the message out about the value of this training and the need for workers and the great careers that you can have in this field with a family-sustaining wage. So we're really grateful for this partnership. I think it's a model of the kinds of things that we hope to replicate in the future. Now let me brag a little bit on our automotive program. I want to go to the next page and show you some of our stackable credentials and show you what this looks like mapped out for a student. You'll see from the list on this page that there are a number of certificates, short-term, that a student can earn in automotive, many in just one term. Separately, they can help an automotive technician be of more value to their employer, or they can make any student more employable in the field. Together, they can be stacked in order to help the student earn a more formal 1-year or 2-year certificate, or even a 2-year degree in automotive technology or automotive management. This program not only works on a foundation of stackable credentials, which make it convenient for students and allow students to focus on the skills they most clearly need at any given time, but it also operates on a self-paced model that allows students to come in and work individually or in small groups with our industry-seasoned faculty members on a schedule that works for them. I'm a big fan of the model of stackable credentials, and I'm eager to see how that model might be used in other programs at our college for the benefit of this community. Like our other workforce programs, this program is closely aligned with a local industry advisory board that helps make sure that our curriculum are current, state-of-the-art, and that our graduates are job ready. This is a unique partnership in surgical technician that we have with Lynn Benton Community College. And I think that it shows, I hope that what it shows is our willingness to try to form innovative partnerships to find creative ways to meet the needs of local employers. So this program is a result of meetings between COCC and industry representatives from St. Charles Health System and other surgical centers in the region. It was not possible for us to start our own program, but we worked to solve the problem for our local employers in a creative way. We had assessed the feasibility and determined that it was cost prohibitive for us to create a 4-credit surgical technician CTE program. We were concerned not only about cost, but about program sustainability after current openings were filled. So to meet the needs of our industry partners, we entered into an agreement with Lynn Benton Community College, who has one of only 2 surgical tech programs in the state. In this program, they accept 2 qualified students from Central Oregon each fall and each spring for a total of 4 students per year in that program. These Central Oregon / LBCC Surg Tech students complete the lecture component of the program online and will complete both the required lab and clinical hours at St. Charles facilities. Thus, they don't have to travel over the pass for this program. They can stay here in Central Oregon. COCC benefits because students complete prerequisite courses here at the college, and because we've done the right thing in helping our local employers find a creative solution to meet their needs. We're committed to exploring the possibilities for local employers. We are currently also in the process of investigating the feasibility of a COC offering of a surgical technician apprenticeship program in partnership with some local surgery centers. So hopefully more to report soon. You may be familiar with our aviation program and the partnership that we have with Leading Edge Aviation, a partnership we value very greatly. Without that partnership, we would not be able to offer an aviation program. We have nearly 200 students in the program currently, helping to fill a pipeline in an industry that's nearing a crisis point shortage. American Airlines, for example, estimates that 75% of their 15,000 pilots are expected to retire in the next 15 years. So this partnership allows us to be able to offer aviation without footing the cost for an entire fleet of planes and assuming the liability for those planes. And it allows Leading Edge, of course, to earn revenue. We're proud to partner with East Cascades Works and the Technology Association of Oregon on this Apprendi program. COCC delivers the classroom component of the program, which with industry assistance is training software developers. The first cohort has 3 completers who are now employed in the area. The second has 5 who have finished the classroom training and are now working and training on the job with industry. And the third group has 9 students who are completing their pre-apprenticeship training this month. Some of our industry partners are 5 Talent, BMS Technologies, and Smarts. We value these kinds of partnerships to create opportunities for students and for employers. Technology, not my strong suit. English teacher. I was enjoying listening to the young man from Oregon State talking about not wanting to stay in school for the rest of his life. I don't understand that. I wanted to stay in school as long as I could. I was avoiding quote unquote real work, and I think I succeeded. So there's something to be said for lifelong education. Another example of a partnership and support from the community, which we highly value, East Cascades Works helped identify several health careers as among those most in need for trained applicants. They approached COCC about what it would take to turn out more graduates in programs like medical assisting, CNA, health information management, and others. We all considered an option to create more scholarships for students, but we suggested that a dedicated health careers recruiter might actually lead to better results. We have great gratitude to EC Works, who approached the Central Oregon Health Council, and these two entities agreed to fund a half-time position for 3 years to work with our college recruiters to pursue other avenues to see if we can train a robust complement of healthcare workers for this region. Thank you very much to those entities helping our students and helping employers in this region. So, to summarize, that's what English teachers do. We summarize the major points. A key component of the mission of COCC is training skilled workers for the jobs that area employers need. I think that there's opportunity for COCC to build on the great, strong foundation we have and to strengthen our efforts in the area of workforce development. Our goal is to be responsive to the needs of business and industry to the best of our ability. If we can't find a solution, we want to try to help find a solution with other partners. Key to achieving this goal, creating stackable credentials, short-term certificates, and expanding our non-credit workforce training. But certainly the most vital element for us to be good providers of workforce education, the thing most needful, as English teachers say, is partnership. And so my contact information is here. I know that my colleagues and I would love to hear from you if you have ideas about how we can try to best meet your needs. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jay Mathison. How'd I do? Sorry about that. I'm Deputy Superintendent in Bend-La Pine Schools, and it's a privilege to be able to sit up here with two great educational leaders in our community and to be invited to speak with you all. To help me get a sense of who's in the room just a little bit better, how many of you are current or recently parents of students in the Bend-La Pine Schools? Can I see hands of those? How many of you, thank you, how many of you are alumni of Bend-La Pine Schools? Right, okay. That helps, I appreciate that, to know who's in the room a little bit. How many of you, if we continue this quiz, because that's what we do as educators, how many of you remember in your student school experience in high school taking a CTE class? You may not have been aware what those initials stood for, but Dr. Chesley Slides helped you see what might be possible. Did anybody take a CTE class? At the time, it might have been called something like a class where you work with your hands. I saw a few hands, right? If your experience was like mine in a high school CTE class way too long ago, you might have built a birdhouse and learned how to run a few hand tools and power saws, right? You might have, like I did, learned how to cook something on a stove or in an oven, right? K12 education was caught in the past for far too long in this community conversation about how do we prepare students for the workforce. As the workforce changed 30 and 20 years ago, K12 was a little stuck. we were still teaching kids how to build birdhouses, and that is not what high-wage, high-demand industry jobs were calling for from high school graduates. It certainly wasn't what my colleagues on either side were calling for with higher education students. So we've actually been engaged in the last decade plus with some excellent leadership in our ranks at catching up with this conversation. It's a fun one to be in tonight from the seat of K12. We've done a lot of catch up in terms of what we offer our students as opportunities and experiences and classes, ways they can earn credit towards a college diploma that opens way more doors than a traditional higher education path or what I experienced as a traditional work with your hands workforce path. And so we're excited about that. We now currently have what we don't have majors like we might in a college or university setting, but we have what we call paths of study. And a path is defined as 3 different progressive courses. So in year 1, you might be taking Criminal Justice 1. The next year, you might take Criminal Justice 2 and that advanced 3rd year. We have 25 different paths now across our high schools. That's 10 more than we had 3 years ago. So the acceleration that's relevant to this conversation about how do we help prepare students for the workforce, yes, ready for college, and we hope many, many go, but yes, also for some who can step into high-wage, high-demand jobs immediately with their high school diploma. We've done a lot in the last 3 years to do that. We're excited about some of those. How many of you are aware of the new high school that's being constructed in the southeast part of Bend? So 20-ish years ago, we built a high school known as Summit High School. Do we have any Storm alums or parents in the house, right? Yeah. When we built Summit High School, we built that school in the current conversation that K12 was in, which is every student must be college ready. That was the conversation 15 and 20 years ago. We did very well. Since that time, we've been retrofitting figuratively and literally to the facility at Summit High School to give up those students more CTE options for those high-wage, high-demand jobs with a diploma. One of the really exciting things about this new high school we're designing is we've caught up with that conversation. So our original construction is designing spaces for those CTE spaces. We intend to have spaces designed specifically for computer science CTE program, for a health sciences program, for a construction program. And so we're excited about that. It's one very visible way that we've caught up with the demand from our community in Bend and across the nation in K12. We have some challenges in doing that. The typical person who we hire to teach in a high school doesn't have the skill set in some of those areas that demand unique skill sets. English teachers we need, and we need lots of good ones, but now we're also out there looking for people who can teach our students to code and other skills that are a little harder to find in a typical teacher workforce. To that end, we appreciate Katy's work and this group's work with our chamber. You all are probably well aware of the chamber's significant investment in helping our team, our K12 team, find expertise in our workforce in our community who can partner in our schools by providing internships. The number of internships that our high school students are a part of has risen astronomically in the last 5 years and will continue to do so. In our system, we are prioritizing adults who work at our high schools who can partner with some of the folks that the chamber has put us in contact with so that we can help our students find those internships in the same conversations that they're talking about. Do you want to go to college? What might you be interested in? Oh, you're interested in that. By the way, have you considered an internship? We could talk about that and get that going. For us, that's a sign of real progress. We would be nowhere without the support of this community, the chamber in particular, and then other groups that I see represented here tonight who've been individuals who've helped us with that. Beyond internships, we have exciting programs that this community has stepped up to provide. I see folks in the room who are providing unique resources that aren't done anywhere else for all 10th graders in our community that might be relevant to talk about tonight. When I was a 10th grader in high school, I did not have an opportunity to meet with movers and shakers in the Bend community like we are able to expose and share with all of our 10th graders. It's amazing what this community has done. So we're a proud partner, and we're grateful. Frankly, the business community is putting their money and their resource where their mouth is when they say they want more out of our graduates. And we're pleased, but have a long way to go with holding up our end of the bargain. But we're taking some really good steps that way. It's exciting to see that shift happen. In some communities, they're building and they're spending significant dollars to build CTE schools, standalone, isolated schools where you can go and work on those pathways. We've taken a different approach to that. We feel that each of our neighborhood and choice option high schools should provide incredibly relevant current CTE programming options for students, and that they should be able to walk down the hall and take AP Lit and Comp, or walk into a physics classroom, and then next period they can go and take their third year of criminal justice or computer program science. We want that to be a part of school, not a special school that students have to unenroll from their neighborhood school and go to that school. We want that to be a part of their experience at La Pine High School, Marshall High School, Mountain View High School, Bend High School, Summit High School, Skyline High School, and Realms High School, and with the yet to be named new high school. We're that committed that it is a part of what every high school should offer to every student in the hallways that they go in their neighborhood. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit just about that change that's developing in K12, and frankly, mostly thank you for your efforts. They're visible to our adults. They're becoming real and making a difference in the trajectory for our students. So thank you for that.
Thank you, panel. That was great. And I'm a parent of a Summit High School sophomore and a Bend High School sophomore. They both chose, I have twins, and they both chose different schools for different reasons. And you're doing a fabulous job. So thank you for everything, and I'm hoping they'll go to one of your two institutions. They tell me they do not want to live with me, however, so I don't know why, but thank you for...
We have residence halls.
Can I start now? Great. So the next part of the program tonight is inviting some folks to come up and ask some very specific questions about their areas of expertise. And Heather, I'm looking at you because you're first. Heather Fick, Director of East Cascade Works, is going to ask the first question. And I really thought about how do we have folks up here who ask questions about very, very different sectors and needs in our community from the workforce standpoint. And so hopefully we have 3 different perspectives tonight. They'll add a little insight into how our institutions are preparing our students and how you as employers can access that. So, Heather.
Thanks, Katie. So I'm Heather Fick. I'm the director of East Cascade Works. We are the local workforce development board that serves this area. And I've got a tough one for you. Actually, first I want to say, Jay, thank you, Bend-La Pine Schools, because I'm a recovering Portland Public School parent. And I cried like the first several months that my kids were in Bend-La Pine because it was such an incredible school district, and the teachers and the staff are just seriously amazing. So thank you.
The teachers and staff are amazing. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go Lava Ridge Lions. Okay. So we hear a lot now on both the national and the state level really about apprenticeship and the value of work-based learning that is deep and embedded in what apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship can do. And even the governor has priorities around kind of next-gen apprenticeships, which I would say Apprendi is probably a great example of. Thank you, Dr. Chesley. Can you talk about how apprenticeship and the preparation that apprenticeship offers in kind of the soft skills that Dr. Johnson was talking about earlier? How are you embedding that in your educational practices?
Okay. Let me take a shot at that.
Give it a shot.
I've referenced our work with Apprendi as work that many good folks are doing. I will say honestly, I think that apprenticeship is an area for us to grow in. We think it's important. We are exploring a number of pre-apprenticeship programs, for instance, in construction and surgical tech.
Construction.
So we're moving more in that direction, but have some work to do. We do embed a lot of employability skills, soft skills, into our non-credit and credit curricula in general. For instance, in our practica, in our clinicals and healthcare curriculum and so on, and also in our general education offerings that are often a part of the programs as well. So we think those skills are vital, and certainly do our best to make sure that our programs train our students to be the employees that our employers want.
Did you want to say anything from a K12 perspective?
Yes, would love to. Apprenticeships with a capital A, more formal apprenticeships, we run into some obstacles around the age of our students. We've explored some of those and some reasonable liability concerns around that. But apprenticeships with a small a, the sky is the limit in terms of that. You're talking more about those soft skills. We believe that you all can teach those skills in an internship setting in ways that they probably can't get in an English classroom. To be quite frank, we know that some of our best students at being a student in a classroom still benefit from those experiences in the real workforce. That's where they really develop those authentic soft skills. So to say that we do that in classrooms to the level that you need that in isolation is probably not realistic. We need to continue growing this partnership to do that. As we continue to offer more and more internships, it is interesting to see the impact that happens when those students are in their classrooms as well. Our teachers are telling us we're seeing those soft skills being developed by their experiences out on the workforce. So we know it's working, and we're eager to do that. It's just we're not able to place very many students in a journeyman electrician apprenticeship at the age of 15.
I'd encourage you to explore pre-apprenticeship.
We will do it.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you. Great. Okay, so OSU students, raise your hand. How many of you told me tonight or didn't tell me tonight you're really interested in the outdoor industry and developing that? There was a couple of you. Okay. Heather McHenry, take note of who is in the room. So the next question is from Heather McHenry. For those of you who don't know her, she is, what is your official title? Director of Organizational Development for Roughware. And for those of you who don't know, Roughware also opened up a co-work space called Embark very, very recently. Cool space. You should go check it out. And Heather is going to ask a question from the outdoor and product development industry.
Thank you. And thanks for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. So I probably break the molds because you can actually show up in jeans at an interview at Roughware. In fact, we'll look at you kind of funny if you have a tie or a nice blouse. Not that this is what I showed up in. I was a little bit dressier. I'm kind of dressed down tonight. But anyway, it must be the night of Heather's to ask questions about soft skills or emotional intelligence. But I am curious. So it's interesting. We're a learning organization. And what that means is that we actually value learning as a competency. So that happens from the founder, the president, the directors, every level. We are learning as we go. If we are deploying new systems, even the Embark co-working space, it's Roughware employees' first experience of sharing our space with other people. And so there are technical skills that are super important in many different jobs, but I'm curious about just an opportunity for students to learn more about who they are and how they collaborate and what their strengths are and how they interact with groups and each other as human beings, and maybe knowing what their deficits are. One of you, my apologies, I think it was you, Becky, mentioned a capstone project. And so is that project being done in a group of students so people can bump up against each other and learn what that's like? So I guess I'm really focused on sort of how do we equip students to understand who they are in a group of people, what makes them gifted and talented, and being able to talk about that in an interview process as much as their skill set, their technical skill set. And how do they navigate through change, and how are they with, how do they build capacity and resilience? Because sometimes work can suck, right? So how do we get through that as human beings in a way where we sort of gracefully dance through that? Different people have different responses to that sort of thing when it comes up at work. So that's a long question. I'll stop there.
Well, I appreciate that question, and I think we have a little bit of an advantage in that we are offering 4-year programs, and so we have students who are at our university for a significant amount of time, and part of that is about 55 credits of what we call baccalaureate core. Some places call that general education, but students are taking communication, they're taking math, they're taking physical sciences, social sciences, hopefully in a way that sticks together, that they can see why they're taking those classes and how they're advancing in that career. So they get a significant amount of time in those classes that if you were taking a coding class so that you could immediately go to work coding, you're not going to get any of that type of skill development. But we also, within our curriculum, say it's computer science or energy systems engineering or outdoor products, we are, from the beginning, have an orientation class that gets them familiar with what are the careers, what are the jobs that you can get in this career, what kinds of skills will you need, is this the right career for you? Like you were saying, explore your own personality, and Laura does this with the Career Development Center as well, has tests that students can take about themselves and what they're going to be a good fit for. But then when they get to that capstone level, we do have a lot of teamwork. I remember my teamwork in college, and I kind of didn't like it because I felt like I was always doing the work and everybody else was getting the grade. But it's still, that happens in real life too, right? You get on a team and there's going to be different kinds of contributions, and that's just something you have to learn, how to work with different people. And so I feel we are very hands-on at OSU Cascades in our programs. The only other thing I wanted to mention about outdoor products, we are just starting this curriculum. We're making a point for those outdoor products students to get a significant background in public lands, conservation, and management, because without public lands, you're not going to be able to use those outdoor products. And so if the people in the industry don't appreciate and get involved in saving those public lands, then the industry doesn't survive either. So that's a part of the curriculum as well.
That's awesome. You bring up a great point, and I think that's what, I'll speak for myself, that's what attracts me to the outdoor industry, is that we really have a commitment to keeping those lands sacred and available, or otherwise we don't get the chance to use them. So
good, thank you.
I'll try to keep this brief. I'll probably tell a couple stories. If you were to walk into some of our elementary classrooms with our young kids, you might see a large poster in front of the room with a single word. The word would be yet, Y-E-T. And so we are doing a lot of work around what's called a growth mindset. We want students to understand that failure is not an end, whether that be on an assignment, a paper, a group project, or a course grade. We want them to understand that failure is a means. So speaking to resilience, this is what we're talking about with 5-year-olds. This is what we are hearing 7-year-olds say in their parent-teacher conferences with their parents listening to them as they talk about themselves, what they've learned about themselves, and about their student work in front of them.
I want to go to your school.
Yeah. So that's what we're working on with our younger students in that way. And I'll stop there.
You mentioned failure this tomorrow, maybe. I think we have 3 faculty who are going to present to students on how to fail forward. And they're going to tell personal stories of when they failed in their life or their career. And it's midterms right now, and some students might not have done very well on their exams and might be feeling like, oh my God, life is over and I need to drop out of school. And they're going to hear from faculty who had those same kind of experiences and how they got through them.
Great points made by Becky and Jay. I'd add a couple more things. You know, folks who went to college in my generation may have experienced a great deal of lecture and telling the professor what he or she wanted to hear, you know, telling back what they had heard. And that is not that common in today's college classroom, particularly in career and technical education, where you learn by doing, you learn by solving problems, you learn by solving problems together. But I think that's also more the case than many folks realize in general education courses as well, that much of the learning occurs in teams. Some of the grading occurs in teams. I share your frustration from my college days. So the pedagogy now, again, may be different than what some folks like me are used to. The other point I'd make is that a lot of learning, and I know you'd concur with this, happens outside of the classroom, and it happens in student co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So we think a key component of learning and learning about team and learning EQ and developing interpersonal skills also happens outside of the classroom, in the residence halls, in our clubs, in our intramural sports, and the like. So those are some other ways, you know, we try to educate the whole person.
Awesome. Thank you. We're very blessed. I've been here for a year and a half and moved from Seattle, and I just get the sense that we're very gifted and blessed in this community to have such fabulous leaders as yourself. So thank you.
Okay, final question, Terry Hockett. Terry Hockett is the Vice President for Central Oregon of the Technology Association of Oregon, so a little bit different.
And I'm not Heather. So I've been in my role about 3 years, and each year we do a quick survey, and about 40 of the 130 tech companies in Central Oregon respond, and they say they are projecting 400 to 500 jobs over that year. And we're doing everything we can through East Cascade Works and EDCO, reaching out, bringing talent in, but we want more homegrown talent. So my question is, what are some things that we can do and that you would suggest that you're doing now, or how parents and how industry can help to get more of the homegrown talent into tech? Because I have the jobs, I just don't have the workforce.
Do you want to talk about pipeline first?
Sure. And I hope I do this right, Dr. Johnson. That's been an issue we've been looking at and talking with folks in our community for a while. And so I think it's accurate to say that probably 6 to 8 years ago, we didn't have any computer programming courses in our high schools, and that's changed dramatically. Shay, my boss, our superintendent, Michelson, is very excited about a project that I hope you'll talk a little bit about tonight that will really add to exponentially what we're able to offer our high school students to home grow some of that talent for the tech sector here in Bend. And we're excited about that. We also know that sometimes exposing 11, 12, 13-year-olds to those tech sector opportunities, our middle school students, is important. And so we're continuing to add options for them to learn more about those skills and the jobs that demand those skills before they even enter high school. And so we're starting to build a pipeline back in our elementary schools. We continue to do more and more short segmented coding units with our students at a variety of organizations in the community that have helped us do that. So our hope is that every level on the way through, more and more of our students are exposed, have an opportunity to learn about and consider and can see themselves in the tech sector going forward. So we're excited, we're making progress, have a ways to go.
Great, thank you.
So we are delighted when we get students who are interested in computer science. I think we probably have close to 100 students now. We have gotten
110.
110, excellent. And we've had some excellent support from the community to try to scale that, because part of it is hiring more faculty, part of it is having scholarships for students who couldn't otherwise afford to go, having these internship experiences and hands-on experiences. All of that takes resources. So we're very grateful to the community for supporting that. In particular, Seven Peaks has stepped up. But we also know that a lot of students come to OSU Cascades and don't know what a computer science degree is. And so we have some courses that anybody can take in computer science, and as a first-year student, second-year student, and there's no prerequisites. So hopefully we can get some of those students also interested in maybe switching majors and going into computer science, just because of the opportunities in the workforce for that. And our biggest problem is probably keeping them and not letting you get them before they get their degree, because they get out there and they do an internship or a summer job and they're making pretty good money at that, and it's like, well, why should I finish that degree when I already have a good job? So, but we have some fabulous faculty in computer science. It's just a matter of scaling and getting enough students. We only have 1,300 students total. But we have a very large program in Corvallis, so if we can help you get connected to the computer science program in Corvallis, I can't imagine that those students wouldn't love to live here as well.
Right, who wouldn't?
You know, I'd add that I think it's really important to help younger folks and their parents understand what great careers can be had in career and technical education, certainly in computers, but in other fields as well. And sometimes there's a misconception about what fields in career fields look like today. Manufacturing is not the manufacturing that many parents of today knew about or experienced. Automotive looks very different than what automotive looked like when I was in college. And I think helping young people understand, and their parents understand, that the sole route is not English, history, or a liberal arts field, but post-secondary education includes a whole range of great careers that can lead you to a family-sustaining wage and a great life, and the possibility for professional growth. And so I think the more we can do that kind of work and help raise awareness in our region, it's a good thing. You know, one small example from our automotive program is we do some recruiting in middle schools with some of our current students, and they hand out this. It's essentially a model of a self-propelled car to kind of turn young people on to, you know, here's the kind of thing you might work on in small scale. I have one. I still haven't figured out how it goes together, but I'm sure that the middle school folks have no problem.
They'll probably come help you.
I hope so.
If you ask them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for those questions from our differing business sectors. I'm going to open up the floor now. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask the panel? And oh yes, Marcus, come on up.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
Good.
Here's my question, and pretty much Jay probably know where I'm going with this question. Diversity. I represent that in the room. So, what pipeline in terms of middle school, high schoolers, as well as the universities and the college we have here, to make sure we are working with the marginalized students, as well as the students of color, to be able to come to your institutions and get some of the same opportunities that many of the students here currently here. Because I had the same opportunities some of you guys did, because I was in a great situation. Unfortunately, a lot of our students are not. So what are we going to do to make sure that happens?
Thanks, Marcus. And I do mean thanks, Marcus. You've pushed us and me on that. So we know that sometimes students who are marginalized in a public K-12 setting, students of color or students who have another first language other than English, it's tough for them. Everything is tough for them. And they're certainly not going to take risks without knowing that there are adults encouraging them to take risks. That's a risk that could mean, do I sign up for that advanced class? I'm ready, but I don't know that I see myself as a student in that advanced class. I don't know that there will be an adult in that class who can help me as I learn the language, learn physics, though my science is spot on for physics. So we are continuing to invest in adults. We're working to recruit a more diverse workforce. We're making some gains there. We have more adults who fluently speak Spanish in our schools today than we did 4 years ago, significantly, and we're working very hard to recruit adults of color to be staff members so that our students have role models who look like them, who are the smartest people in the room. I had that benefit. We have many students, a growing percentage of those students in our schools who, unless we are purposeful and intentional about it, they won't have that opportunity, and they deserve to have it. And so we're making gains that way. We're also, Marcus, I'm going to give you a shout out, leaning on his leadership at COCC over the years, where he has brought students and played a leadership role in doing that, to work with our students or to put on events for our students, to give them other adults who are successful pursuing higher education, who say, you can do this. You belong here on this college campus, should you choose. So I'll stop there.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with anything Jay said. It's incredibly important to have role models in the classroom, and it is our biggest challenge when you're recruiting PhDs to work at the university. And so we are constantly working on the pipeline. We require what we call search advocates on every search, which are people who undergo extensive training in interviewing and search techniques to make sure that we all have our own biases that we will never get rid of, but it's understanding what those biases are and how they play out when you're recruiting and interviewing people. And so we make sure we have trained people on every single search. In terms of recruiting students, we do have some good programs at OSU, the Juntos program, which involves families from around Central Oregon in all of the activities with their students. That's mostly at the K12 area, at the K12 level, but they come and visit our university with their families and learn about what it's like. And so we are trying very hard to make sure, when that's a crucial part of getting students to come and be successful, that we make sure that we're involving the families in that as well. We have had some of our statistics show that our underrepresented students are actually succeeding at a level equal to our white students, and I just have to make sure that that continues. We have such a small population that those statistics can change dramatically, in a couple of years, but closing those achievement gaps is one of the most important things that we can do. We're a public university, we're a land-grant university, we're all about access and success for all people, and we want to increase our number of need-based scholarships. It's really common at universities for them to spend their money on achievement scholarships and getting the highest quality student that you can get. We're very committed to having as many scholarships for low-income students as we can have to make sure that they have access to the university. But it is an ongoing challenge, and I wouldn't pretend for a minute that we have figured it all out.
Certainly, we have not figured it all out, but I concur with the things that Jay and Becky have said. I'd also add that at COCC, we do a lot of work to expose underrepresented middle and high school students to the concept of college. They may not have been thinking about that as a possibility. And we do summer camps and other kinds of activities in partnership with a number of different organizations to show them that possibility, to get them excited about the possibility of college, and to get them thinking and knowing that they too are college materials. So I think that kind of outreach is really important. And we also, as Becky referenced, have a number of affinity groups and support systems that we create for underrepresented students on our campus, so that as they navigate a new environment, a strange environment, they have colleagues that they can turn to for support. And our goal is to make all students successful.
Thank you, panel. So if I could interject, you have, oh, wait, Katie. There's another Katie in the house. Come on up. You want to ask a question? Katie Connet from Better Together? Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I will be quick. Thank you all for being here. We talked a lot about resilience and soft skills, which I appreciate being recognized as critical skills. And I'm wondering how, as we recognize those as really important, yet we continue to measure math and English and graduation rate and retention rate. If you could talk a little bit about how you're measuring some of those other qualities that we recognize are incredibly important for young people in our region.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that one. So we do have in our district under Shay Michelson's leadership, he talks quite a bit about the impoverished view of education, which is measuring only math scores, reading scores, et cetera. Those things are important, but there needs to be an and in that conversation. And so over the last years under his leadership, we've measured things like student-reported hope and engagement through the Gallup survey that's internationally normed. And we have schools that have set goals around those things. We have a new survey that we began last year, which is called our Resilience Survey, which we are going to prefer to that Gallup survey because it speaks to some of these other soft skills in a more defined way. We'll be making decisions about what we do in our structures and systems based on what students tell us as they give us that input. We also measure, one of our key ends is the percentage of our students enrolled in extra and co-curricular activities, which Dr. Chesley mentioned. We actively pursue getting students involved in at least one of those during their high school career. There's very sound research that says that students involved in one extra or co-curricular activity have a much better chance of not only finishing, but thriving in high school academically. Doesn't mean you're on the football or volleyball team in the fall. It could be that, but it could be band. It could be that you're a part of the cross-cultural club. It could be that you're in the downhill ski team. Something like that allows a student to say, this is my place, this school. I am one of these people here. Those are all about soft skills, and we measure those things on purpose because it matters. It's an and with the academics. It's not an or.
Our general education, what we call baccalaureate core, has specific learning outcomes around things like critical thinking, teamwork, some communications. There's like 6 of them, and I should remember what they are, but it's been a while since I've been in the classroom. But that core curriculum of about 55 credits have those objectives, and every course that is taught as part of that has to demonstrate that they are teaching to those learning objectives and that they are assessing students at the end of that course. And so part of our accreditation that we have to undergo to be accredited as a university looks at our assessment of our baccalaureate core and those learning outcomes. And if we can't demonstrate that our students are meeting those, we're calling here tonight soft skills, then we would be challenged in terms of being accredited. So we pay a lot of attention to that. And every student at the university has to take all of those courses.
Like Becky's institution, COCC, in order to maintain its accreditation, has to assess general education outcomes, which include a number of soft skills. We also use 2 specific instruments. One is called the Survey of Entering Student Engagement, and the other is called the Community College Survey of Student Engagement. And what it does is has asked students to identify certain behaviors that they engage in and the frequency that they engage in them that are correlated with student success. So how often do you study in a group? How often were you asked to work in a group project? How often did you approach your instructor after class? And so we get a sense of the frequency of those behaviors, again, many of them involving soft skills, that are correlated with student retention and success. And then we can use that to work on with our faculty how we can do more to encourage where we don't see those behaviors as frequently. So those are 2 additional methods that we use at the college.
Thank you, panel. So we're almost at the end, and I'm going to lob this onto the table for you 3 to talk about. So OSU Cascades is asking the legislature this year for money, $12 million, for a Student Success Center. And the chamber and our members have been really supportive of the growth of the campus, the growth of COCC, the new campus over in Redmond, and we also were very supportive of the last bond measure for Bend-La Pine. So here's what I have noticed that is so different from when I went to school, that there are a lot of kids that are in school now that are homeless. There are people at OSU and COCC and other institutions that actually go to a Student Success Center because they cannot feed themselves. And they're living in a van or they're doing whatever that they can. And we talk a lot about student debt, but a lot of this is just about survival and holding on to that hope that you are going to be more hireable and be able to move up in the socioeconomic ladder. And the needs of students today are different than 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And so we're asking our educational institutions from K through 12, even before that, and our higher ed institutions now to teach people, feed people, provide counseling to people, help find a home for people. And it's real, it's real. I know, how many percentage of your students are Pell Grants? It's significant.
Like 42%.
42%. So there's a lot of folks out there that are struggling. And so you're asked now to be a social services institution as well as an educational institution. And they both go together because we are trying to educate and make human beings thrive. So can you share with us what that challenge is and just a sampling of some of the things that you do to help the human beings who are students survive?
I really appreciate your comments, and there's no question that the population that shows up at a university today is much different than the population that showed up when I was going to the university, and it's great. It's what we need. We need to have more access to higher education from everyone in our society. And so whether it's learning disabilities or it's income constraints, it's not having a family that ever went to college so they don't even know how to apply, all of these things need to be addressed with our students to make them successful because they have the potential to be successful once they arrive. And if we admit them, it's up to us to try to make them successful. And that's why we have people like our Career Development Center, we have Veterans Services, we have services for students with disabilities. There's probably 20 different services that we provide for students that wouldn't have been there 20 years ago at a university. And yes, it's expensive, but it's just absolutely the right thing to do if we're going to have a more just society going forward.
I would note that we currently have a number of supports on campus for students who are in need of basic assistance. Those include a food bank. Those include I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's a closet where folks can go to get clothing, especially for interviews and things like that, if they don't have the money to afford nice clothing to go out and get a job. We provide, through the generosity of our donors, we have emergency assistance for students who are in some sort of an immediate crisis and need funding beyond tuition. We're part of, along with all of the Oregon Community College, study of food insecurity and housing insecurity on our campuses, because this is a problem that's endemic in community colleges, not just in Oregon, but across the country. I talked earlier about partnership, and partnership is really important. I think it's a must to begin to address these problems. And so our counseling and advising staff need to be very much aware of when we can't address the need, who can we refer to? And I'm sure local services are burdened as well, and maybe stretched beyond their means. But those are a number of things that we're trying to do to alleviate some of the struggles that our students face. But it seems overwhelming at times.
It does seem overwhelming at times, and there's a bit of a narrative out there sometimes where people in K-12 systems say, oh my goodness, remember in the good old days when you could just teach reading, writing, and math and not have to be the social services? Well, let me tell you, that's not our narrative. It's a privilege to serve our students and their families, whatever their needs are, and we're in a position through the generosity of this community to offer them supports, and it is the right thing to do. And so we don't say, woe is me. We do invest in helping families. We have, some of you are likely aware of our Family Access Network, or FAN, where we have adults in our communities in serving all of our schools that help parents delay or hopefully stay out of eviction, because we know, research tells us that mobility from home to home or from school to school actually is one of the most damaging experiences for a child's academic growth. And so if we can invest in not having that family find a new school for their second grader in March, then that is money well spent, and we will do it. We will help pay utility bills. We will help keep the lights on. We will provide clothing, and we will provide food, and all of those things are networked and they're resourced from this community. We have the privilege of being the giver, the messenger of those things that this community offers, and we want to do that. Those are our kids and they're our families. It's the right way to do things. We're hiring mental health professionals. These are on top of our school counselors. And on top of our student behavior specialists. These are licensed private practitioners, and they're in our high schools today, because as our mental health dilemma worsens and we learn more about it, they need access to the best math teachers on the planet in our high schools, and they also need access to the best mental health professionals on the planet. And so we're going to spend our money and our resources providing that to them. We can't do that without the generosity of this community and frankly those in our state. But that's our work now, and it's right work.
All right, we're almost up against the gun, but Heather, did you want to ask one last thing? Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm curious, in the spirit of partnership, what are your students telling you that they need from employers in the community for us to be more attractive? And, we would much rather hire people from the local Bend community than try to convince somebody to move to Bend. So I'm just curious, what is it that we can do to help retain talent here, and what are the qualities or things in the environment that we need to create? What are you hearing from students around that topic?
I wonder if we could get a student to answer that.
That'd be great. Any students want to answer that question?
What would you look for from a business here that you could work for in the future?
What do you
want? Don't be shy. You're here.
Ask for a job, man. This is it. This is your time.
Okay, so me personally, I came from Memphis, Tennessee, and from moving here, the living cost is insane. I mean, it is ridiculous. And for me, looking at businesses, I've been offered a few internships, but they can't even pay enough for me to even move out of my job that I'm currently in. So essentially what most students, I would believe, would ask if they want to actually stay here is be able to afford to live here. Because most people that live here want to live here just for the amenities that it comes with. Because, I mean, from my house right now, I can just get on my bike and go ride at world-class mountain bike trails. And that's essentially what I would want, is just to be able to live comfortably. So, not asking much, but...
Just some money. That's it. Okay, one more. This is a good idea, Becky.
I was just agreeing with him. I'm a Bendite native myself, and I'm having difficulty finding a means to live in the community on my own. So it's definitely like if there was a way for those living expenses to be offset a little bit. I don't know if that's something employers would be able to provide, but that is definitely, I can tell you as a Bend native, that's kind of the biggest thing that's driven away some of my friends is they can afford to live elsewhere. It's a little bit hard here. Thanks.
Yep. Anybody want to add anything to Okay, I think that summed it up right there. And we are out of time. We could have a longer conversation about that. Thanks for the question, Heather. So I want to also thank our sponsors, SunWest Builders and Miller Lumber, for tonight. I want to thank our fabulous panel. Thank you for everything you do in our community. And I wish you all happy holidays. We'll see you back here in January. Thank you.